Now, when you think of September 2001, Silent Hill 2 likely isn't the first thing that comes to mind, but on the 25th, a game dropped that would quietly reshape horror forever. What started as a haunting psychological masterpiece on the PS2 grew into one of the most influential stories the genre has ever seen, spawning port, debates, nightmares, and a legacy no horror fan can escape. And now, over 2 decades later, Bloober Team has stepped up to reimagine that legend for a new generation with the 2024 remake. And here's the twist: I've never actually played Silent Hill before. Look, sacrilegious, I know, but I was always more of a Resident Evil kid, never really pulling back the veil and stepping fully into the fog. But today, that all changes, as I'll be pursuing the Platinum Trophy in Silent Hill 2. In front of us lie 6 main endings, at least 2 full trips through the town, and one of horror's most iconic antagonists, Pyramid Head. A minimum of 2 runs is absolutely required, since we need every new game plus exclusive ending and the trophy tie to complete in the game a second time. So here's the plan: run 1 will be a guided run, grabbing every photo, memo and glimpse of the past while working towards the 3 available endings in this playthrough: Maria, Leave and In Water. The second run will see us avoiding all ranged weapons and turning off the radio entirely. On top of that, we'll be collecting everything needed for the Rebirth ending, triggering the UFO ending, and of course grabbing that legendary dog ending as well. By the time we're done, every route, every secret and every bizarre twist this remake has to offer will be checked off the list. Now with the roadmap laid out, let's go ahead and step into Silent Hill for the very first time. The game begins with our main character James Sunderland just outside Silent Hill after having received a letter from his wife Mary, who has apparently now been dead for 3 years. She tells him she's waiting for him at their special place somewhere in the town, but with zero specifics. So with nothing but grief and confusion driving him, James heads in to track her down. That is of course right after he tries to immediately turn around and head home, instantly netting us our first trophy. No turning back now. As mentioned in the intro, this first run is fully guided so we can gather all the collectibles for the 3 required trophies. There's 120 in total, so obviously I can't show them all, but note they will be done in this run. Since we're starting just outside the town, our first objective is to make our way down through the woods. Along the way, we stumble into a graveyard and meet our first reoccurring side character, Angela. She's nervous, distant, and definitely hiding something, but she does at least warn us about the dangers waiting inside Silent Hill. And as is tradition in good horror media, we ignore all of that and press on anyways. After a short hike, we reach the entrance to Silent Hill and grab our first map. One of many we'll collect across the game. Doing so nabs us another trophy for officially entering the town, and it isn't long before something moves in the fog just ahead of us. Wait there, what the fuck is that?
What you doing out here with all this ass? Double cheeked up on a Thursday afternoon.
Giving chase to the cheeks similar to that of something in a mid-2000s music video, we find ourselves inside a home where we can grab the radio and also face our first foe. With a bit of quick thinking, we grab a board and nails from the wall and pound down our first of many.
Say that again?
The radio we've acquired will now produce static at an increasing rate as we approach enemies. There is a trophy for turning this off of course and not using it for a full playthrough, but that'll be left for the second run. Now with our first line of defense acquired, we're able to properly explore the town of Silent Hill. This also introduces us to how the game handles progression. Each major area usually has one overarching puzzle we need to solve before moving forward. For this stretch, that puzzle resolves around fixing the jukebox inside Neely's bar. Our first stop is a music shop where we can grab some vinyl glue and one half of a broken record. From there, we head to the Salt Street Apartments and make our way up to the top floor. And look fellas, I've been acquainted with a few shady holes in my time, but James Sunderland here takes the cake. He finds a bathroom glory hole and immediately decides to just shove his hand straight through it. No hesitation, no pause, just straight raw dogging it. Luckily it does pay off though, and we come out with the jukebox button, leaving us only one more piece to find. The other half of the record is still inside the jukebox itself, we just need to spring the prong back to release it. Now with both hearts in hand, we combine them with the glue for a fully repaired vinyl we can use in the machine. We then slot our freshly acquired glory hole button back into place, hit C2 and activate the jukebox, and that finally grants us the Neely's bar key. Using said key, we can now head out the back and under a pile of bloodstained clothes we can grab the WoodSide Apartments key. This also triggers an ambush following us up the street as the fog intensifies, and as the streets currently do resemble that of Mogadishu October 1993, we didn't exactly stop to exchange details with anybody, hightailing it right up to the apartments. Using the key we can find some refuge inside while also grabbing trophy number 3. Once again, the apartments will see us pursuing another puzzle to progress, this time in the form of a coin puzzle stationed inside the first floor's reception. Heading upstairs, we can grab the flashlight, and if you needed a case example of how to use a jump scare, look no further. With some fresh stains and our Calvin's acquired, we can head towards an apartment key downstairs. Reaching through the fence, the keys are booted away from an unknown kid as of right now, but believe me, this won't be the last time she manages to terrorise us. Taking the scenic route around, we can grab the 2F key, allowing us to head upwards onto the second floor. and bringing us face to face with one of horror's most iconic entities for the first time.
Open the door. Open the door.
In all seriousness though, having him stand there only slightly twitching his arms is so effective, and I mean, even the approach as your flashlight goes from a beam and light to becoming dimmer as you get closer, it's the small things in this game like that that make all the difference. Immediately following this, we can acquire our first strap in the form of a handgun, waiting for us inside an extremely disproportionate shopping trolley. I mean, beside a Beretta pistol, what the fuck else are you gonna fit in that? Anyway, luckily for us, our next trophy is now available inside one of the apartment rooms. There'll be a collection of balloons spelling out welcome home. Apparently Bloober aren't big fans of veterans or recently sick patients, so they require us to pop each balloon individually. Carefully shooting each balloon, we can grab Let's Not Party. Fresh off ruining somebody's reunion, we can get back to the task at hand. In a close by room, we grab the man coin before heading back upstairs to take out the trash. Following it down the chute on the bottom floor, we can grab the next coin which fell out. Both of these being integral to the overarching puzzle we mentioned earlier. Our third and final coin will see us heading towards the courtyard, but along the way we come across Eddie, the second of our reoccurring characters we will see regularly throughout Silent Hill. Similar to ourselves, Eddie has been drawn into this town. He does ask if we want to stick together, but again, that's not going to fit a horror game narrative, so we butt him off and leave him spewing in the toilet on his ones. Heading through the courtyard, we can grab our final coin inside the pram, allowing us to now head back and complete the puzzle. This pops out a key for room 201, found at the end of the corridor on the second floor. Inside said room, we interact with a handkerchief on the table, allowing us to be properly introduced to the main man himself. And didn't get us wrong, I think he was only challenging us to a dance battle, but James is stiffer than a bloke with polio, so he ends up opting for dropping a few caps into him instead, which of course proves to be a waste of time. Having now watched an unkillable being mutilate 2 corpses, outdance us, and absorb a good 3 rounds, our only next logical step is to then follow him right where he's went. So that's what we do, heading through the red door. The genuine horror aspect of this game can begin, switching us to the OtherWorld for the first time. I mean, genuinely, these sections are so well done. It is essentially the same layout as the one we've just been through, only this time nearly everything around you is fully decrepit. This is where the combat also ramps up with a lot more enemies spawning. What isn't different though is another multi-step puzzle needing solved, this time in the form of a clock. It's missing the hour and minute dials, so we need to head out and find them. Now this area is slightly more linear as a lot of the routes are blocked off, so the puzzle solutions are a lot easier to find and aren't quite as time consuming. That of course does come with a trade-off where you're left perpetually shitting yourself, but hey, every silver lining. Skipping ahead very briefly, we find ourselves inside a room sporting a toilet full of tar, oil, shite, no idea what it is. But if we've learned one thing about James so far, he's not afraid of getting his hands dirty, so once again he takes a good old gander down in the bog, pulling out the minute hand. Following on from this, we bump into Angela once more, wielding a massive knife. She asks us to keep a hold of this for our own safety. This for ourselves will play a huge part in an ending later, so make sure to grab it before pressing onwards. Heading back to the clock, we can enter the right time, completing this area and allowing us to now leave downstairs. Of course, so it won't be that easy, and we are met with our first boss fight. And I mean, to be fair, it's extremely simple. Pyramid Head doesn't move too fast, so it is just a case of bobbing and weaving, getting off shots when you can. Now, the first time through, I wasn't aware at all this was a timed event, so when I finished him off with our very last bullet, I felt like I just clutched it up. But it turns out, after about 3 minutes or so, he would have just fucked off anyway. Grabbing past wraps up the apartments in full, and we can move onwards. The next section for us sees us heading towards the pier, and more specifically the area where we can imagine Mary being. There is a woman waiting who does look and sound exactly like Mary. Funny enough, her name is Maria too. So we've got the same face, same voice, and a name beginning with M. I mean, how are you, James? Let's just wrap this shit up and head home, shall we? Now, of course, that's not an option, so Maria will be accompanying us for a while, and don't get us wrong. After hiking around this foggy shithole, a bit of company does go a long way. We can also grab Uncanny for meeting her. This is immediately followed by a quick detour to the bowling alley where we can inspect a box of pizza, grabbing leftovers. Now for this section with Maria, it opens up a side of Silent Hill we couldn't visit before, so naturally that means a lot of collectibles to clean up. Having got them out the way, ourselves and Maria end up at the strip club, and with James being the little rascal he is, we attempt to head through for a private, but we get denied. We do, however, get You Never Know for trying 50 locked doors. Joining a long list of people asking this question at a stripper's bar.
Am I crazy? You know, for thinking she could be here.
We wrap up the therapy session and get back to the task at hand, leading us to a monument in the park. Maria brought us here thinking this could be the special place Mary is waiting for us, but of course she isn't. Weighing up options on the bench, we hear a scream from the movie theatre. Making our way there, we come across Eddie once more, barehanded scooping ice cream down. Laura's also here in the projection room, so we get to make sure she's alright. Of course, she ends up running away again, which leads us to our next main area in pursuit of her, and also our 10th trophy for reaching the hospital. And look folks, if I'm being honest with you, I think this area is this game at its very best. The hospital for me is easily the highlight of this game, combining every element flawlessly, whether that be the string of puzzles leading the overarching one, combat encounters, atmosphere, honestly, all of it's ace. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We do find Laura on the stairs, who promptly runs off and locks the door. This of course makes our main objective being to locate her, which ends up being on the 3rd floor. Maria does stick with us for a little while before we reach the 2nd floor, where she decides to take a rest. And I mean credit to her, because that bed looks like ground zero for just about every single infection known to man.
So comfy.
Ah wait, at least she's having a good time anyway. From this point forward, the structure reverts back to that of the apartments in town, in which we have a main puzzle at hand solved by acquiring all the parts scattered throughout the multiple 3 floors of the hospital. We do also come face to face with another iconic offering from this franchise in the form of the nurses. And look, having fought mostly caked up paraplegics up until this point, the nurses do a good job switching the combat up, as they are a good bit healthier and also attack in much more erratic ways. Following the natural progression of rooms, we get access to a room with a small armory where we can acquire the bent needle from a stuffed bear and our second weapon in the form of a shotgun. And let us tell you, this thing does pack a punch. Much like the coins inside the apartment, there was 3 bracelets we need here. The first of which we find after gently ascending a crack in the wall. From there is waiting for us on the floor. Next one, however, is not so simple. Coming across a drain on one of the wards, we get a prompt to use an item, which is where the bent needle will come into play. We are going to need an attachment, however, so we head off to find something we can combine it with. This comes in the form of a medical tube a few rooms over. Putting these two together allows us to create a fishhook type contraption. And I mean, hey, this would have been kind of useful a few glory holes back, but at least we've got it now. It turns out the maintenance key was at the bottom of this hole, which we can use now to open the pool maintenance pipes and drain the remaining water. At the bottom of the pool is our next band. For the final band, it's in a room locked up on the 3rd floor, and after a long-winded investigation, in which I went ahead and did the only step, that being consult the power picks guide I've been using for collectibles, we were able to magically pop the lock and grab it. Inside the director's office lays a hand holding the key, aligning the bands correctly with numbers 92, 45 and 71. The hand loosens its grip on the key, which is the room for the next door. Inside there's a safe button, which is the missing compartment for the area's main puzzle. The safe itself is akin to that of a few hieroglyphics, which just need entering in the correct order. Once this is complete, the safe opens and we can grab the rooftop key. Having acquired this, we head back to check on Maria, who isn't there. I can only imagine the hepatitis bed has absorbed her and added her back to the colony.
So comfy.
Cutting our losses, we head to the roof, and once again Bloober proves they are more than equipped to catch us off guard. Honestly, that got me good. Fair play, Pyramid Head, but this one isn't over. On the bright side, he did chuck us right into the correct area where Laura is hiding. The little bastard tells us she has a letter from Mary, and she hid it behind these conveniently extremely intimidating doors. After good old bamboozling, she shuts the door on us and leaves us trapped with something forming around us. What it is though, is probably the last thing on earth I'd expect. That's right, a fucking pocket pussy with arms. Well, forgive me, a single arm. But I tell you what, it's got some forearms on it, as it's got no bother jumping from tile to tile one-handed. I mean, this fight was extremely easy if I'm being honest. The attacks are easy to predict, and when it comes down, the hang lasts a good while, so it's simple enough to get a few shots off. Rinse and repeat this a few times, and the flesh lip goes down. Awakening from our quick journey through the vents, we find ourselves in the OtherWorld again. This time, of course, being very similar to that of the apartments, in which it has its own puzzle to solve, while also ramping up the horror a good bit. And now, I'm not going to go through the whole section, as it is just more or less acquiring all the codes and keys for the centre stage Lapis box, but we did, however, eradicate our 75th enemy with melee weapons for blunt force trauma. The Lapis box once solved reveals to us a holy figure munching down on an elevator button, so we can go ahead and grab that. Doing so allows us to now head towards the basement and find a ring for this fine lady. Down there waiting for us instead is our own fine lady, and she's not best pleased.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway?
After a minor tip from Maria, we head back upstairs and attach the ring, allowing us to enter an area perfectly designed for a gamer tag with a bloke carrying a 6-foot blade. And what do you know? Right on time, Pyramid Head appears. And look, as tragic as this scene ends up being, it didn't half make us laugh. You see, this whole game had been run at the speed akin to that of a geriatric pensioner, and even during the first half of this chase, that's also true. But as soon as it cuts to the cutscene, James turns on the jets and just fucking dusts her.
Fucking meow.
As they say though, survival of the fittest, and unfortunately for Maria, she does end up on the receiving end of Pyramid Head blade. Horrible for her? Great for our trophy count though, as we can grab a loan again. And once again, another brilliant example of simple but effective sound design with only a few keys being played, really highlighting the somber feeling James must be experiencing. This also sees us out for the whole hospital section as we watch Laura run away, and of course, we then follow in pursuit. Making our way through the streets, we come across a ringing phone, and I mean, it'd be rude to just leave it keep ringing.
Hello?
Why did you redeem it? Why did you redeem it? Why did you do it? No, 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 no!
Now, tech support on the phone wasn't our helpful, but there is a note instead telling us to head towards the park where we'll find a key under the feet of a praying woman. Mr. Sunderland, being the foot fetish freak he is, doesn't need telling twice, so off there we go. Arriving there, we are a little disappointed they're covered by robes, but this is immediately forgiven as we can grab the key for the Historical Society. Now, this is on the other complete arse end of town, but luckily we do have a trophy or free we can grab. Our first sees us visit room 106 and simply observe the wall, while the other is for destroying 50 windows, something we had been working up until this point. Right after grabbing Shattered though, we head into the Historical Society for our third, finding it right at the bottom of the largest staircase known to man. This is also the bottleneck for our next major area of the prison. After obtaining the key for the hatch, we can open the way for James to make one of two decisions. The first is maybe not jump into the abyss, which could go on for miles, and possibly look for an alternative route. And the second is jump without a second thought. Now look, I'm a bit split on the prison. On one hand, I think atmospherically it's possibly the best section of the game, definitely in regards to how creepy it is. But on the other, I thought it was a bit of a drag to get through. Look, I'm all for darkness in a horror game, that just comes with the territory, but some of these sections had you feeling like Stevie Wonder without a cane. Seriously, it is dark as fuck down there.
Damn. I can't see fucking shit out of this thing.
I also just think it was missing something compared to the apartments and hospital. And look, I'm sure this will be somebody else's highlight, but for me, I wasn't a massive fan overall. There is, however, a few things to note while down here. Inside the office, we can find the hunting rifle, which is the final weapon we need for James of all trades. Having acquired the key from a locker room, we can unlock the armory and grab it. Simply killing the enemy with it completes the cycle of getting a kill with all available weapons. The second isn't too far off either, as we mow down our 75th creature for no big deal. Now you may ask, what do we actually do down here in the prison besides shooting things in the face, body or appendages? Well, once again, this whole area is linked with a central puzzle, this time attributed to weight, and more specifically finding all the correct counterweights to balance the scales. Each weight added when configured right moves the scales just enough one way or the other to open a door, and each door is attributed to a different animal. You can find the correlating doors back in the main cell block behind you. And once again, although not my personal favourite area, you have to give credit where it's due. These freaky little things crawling over the wall as you quickly try to run through genuinely are nightmare fuel. It honestly feels like there's so many more there than there probably is, once again down to fantastic sound design. But yeah, that's the top and bottom of this area, and cutting a long story very short, nothing of note narratively happens until the puzzle is complete anyway, so I'll go ahead and skip right to it. Having gathered all the weights from each respective room, we are, as mentioned, able to balance the scales, allowing the statue above to adjust and drop us the executioner lever. Using this, we can attach it to its designated spot, revealing us another puzzle. This one is real simple and just requires you to match up all the sentence starters with the correct endings. The final word of all the starting sentences and end sentences rhyme, so this one doesn't take too long to solve at all. Out of all the now complete sentences, you have to pick who is the least evil, and for me this time that was number 2, but from what I'm aware this is actually random every time, so yours may be different. After this we simply head towards the correlating noose and interact with it. This will send James falling and introduce us to our next section. We end up down here in what looks like a block of flats. In one of the rooms we find Angela on the floor begging for forgiveness. Now, naturally we're a bit confused as you can imagine, but this immediately gets cleared up when her dad spears us through the wall, kicking off our next boss fight. Now, I know how sacred the lore is for a lot of people, so I'm not going to pretend like I can explain or hell, even understand it all. But just to give a bit of context, we have met Angela a bunch throughout the story, and she has pretty much always been in distress. This boss we're fighting now is her physical manifestation of all the trauma she has due to her abusive father. Much like ourselves, she's living out her own horrors in Silent Hill as the town presents a different interpretation to each person. For Angela, this picture frame with Sciatica as her own demon, much like ours with Pyramid Head or the nurses or anything else we've fought up until this point. And hey, if it's going to give us the opportunity to take out an abusive father, we may as well. That's nice skin off our back. The fight itself is nothing special as it's literally just another case of bobbing and weaving, attacking while you can, but it is good to see Angela get a few licks in at the end of it though. We can also go ahead and grab Unforgivable for beating him. Having tackled someone else's trauma, we can go ahead and get right back at our own. Heading down towards the door, we come across the last thing I was expecting to see.
Surprise, motherfucker!
And I mean, it is nice to see she's had a fresh set of sheets put on, but I wonder why she's got that drip hanging up near her. Oh well, I'm sure it's nothing. Stuck behind a set of bars, we set off to try and rescue her. You see, right outside the room, we now have a cube we can spin for access to new areas. And if I'm honest, I'm so thankful at this point I had chosen to follow a collectible guide for the first run, because I know for certain without this would have been confusing the shit out of me. This area isn't a million miles away from the prison, in that each area you choose on the cube will bring it to a new room you can use to advance the narrative. The first half, no real problem at all. I mean, you lot know how this goes by now. Explore a new area, gather a few bits to progress through, and Bob's your uncle. However, the second half of this area with the sewers, honest to God, fuck this place on every single day that ends in a Y. You see, the area itself has an upper and lower floor, each with some places you can only access through one door or set of ladders. But it's so dark and everything looks so similar, it's real hard to keep track of where you need to be or where you've been. And honestly, I'm aware this is probably more so a massive skill issue on my part, and the second time around, in our next run, this was substantially easier. But I'll tell you what, in this moment, I couldn't fucking stand this area. Every single survivor horror game has at least that one section you just can't bear to face again. For Silent Hill 2, these sewers would be mine, no doubt. Once again though, it's such a juxtaposition as this area genuinely has the most frightening section of the whole game. You come across a fence gate at one point with only one way to funnel off down and find a solution. And what's waiting for you at the other side of this, you may ask? Now that bit genuinely did get a good jump out with me. The sound of his footsteps and sword scraping behind you, honestly man, it's just so well done. This is actually Pyramid Head's room as well, so we can go ahead and grab Inner Sanctum for entering it too. We of course eventually did manage to make our way through the sewers, and after chopping the fence down and going to descend the stairs, it ends the section on such a cool note. Taking control of the camera as we get on the stairs, Pyramid Head is just seen ominously watching you. Go towards him and he heads off. No big scare, no crashing noise, just little things like that make all the difference and separate the atmosphere of this game from others. I wouldn't get too much FOMO though, as only a few minutes later heading down a corridor we come across what I can only interpret as the gateway to Hawkins Upside Down, and of course the main man himself. Now foolishly, I didn't at first comprehend this isn't actually a boss fight and you aren't supposed to stay and pep him with rounds. Of course, this realization would come after I'd spent every single round I had on him. What you're actually meant to do is just run towards the tentacles as he gives pursuit, which in turn opens the way for you. From this, we can make our escape and wrap up this area. We do go ahead and find Marie here, but unlike before where she was glowing from the outside of the bars, instead she is extremely weathered and once again dead, leaving us no other option but to leave her there and continue to pursue for our Mary. To wrap up the area, we find a gaping hole resting in front of a grave with our name on it, and come on, you know what James is going to go ahead and do. At the bottom of another gaping hole is our old friend Eddie, but at this point it's safe to assume we aren't buddies anymore, and honestly the wind up on this punch is hilarious. As you can imagine, Eddie's not our keen receiving another man's knuckles into his face, so with a broken ego, he scatters off further into the freezer. This here kicks off our next boss fight with Eddie himself, and by this point having beat a one-armed pocket pussy and an abusive father masquerading as a photo frame, you'd think it would be quite easy, but it's actually quite the contrary. Now don't get me wrong, it's not hard at all, but for a big boy, Eddie's not half nimble, jumping from meat to meat as if it was a Lily Phillips and Bonnie Bloom meet and greet. As much as he can use the carcasses for cover, we can too. So it's just a case of picking our moments. He does split a gas pipe midway through though, massively restricting our view. I'm certain at this point as well he injects himself with the G virus or something, because that boy starts seriously shifting gears at this point. Sadly for Eddie though, it's not quick enough, and a few well-placed shotgun shells put him down. Taking care of Eddie nets us a human being for our troubles, and with him now out the way, we can press onwards towards the final section of this game. That is right after we spend a good 10 minutes sitting on the lake doing fuck all. With the Scourge of Toluca Lake now acquired, we can make our way over in the boat. And let me tell you something now, coming off the back of two areas I wasn't massively a fan of, this final hotel section redeems them both and then some. Right from the get-go, it's got this surreal and ethereal vibe to it, of course covered in fog, but also a lot brighter somehow, really creating this almost dreamlike feeling. Pair that with a similar multi-story layout akin to that of the apartments and hospital, it generates a brilliant way to see this game out. But I'm getting ahead of myself though, we need to go ahead and grab the trophy for arriving here first. Inside we find Laura once more, who has a note from Mary wishing her a happy 8th birthday. The issue there being Laura turned 8 last week, meaning Mary couldn't possibly have died 3 years ago. James of course ends up rejuvenated from this, and as you'd imagine gives him a bit more confidence this hotel might be the special place she mentioned. With that thought in mind, we get to work unraveling the final part of this mystery, and look, as mentioned, this area is genuinely to me a blueprint on how good survival horror can be. One more time, we have a centerpiece puzzle inside the main room in which we need to find the missing parts so we can assemble and then solve it. This time around, we're looking for 3 princess figurines spread out across the 3 floors of the hotel. And once again, everything just flows perfectly. You know, one room key will lead to another, which can bring you to another clue, but just the design and layout was honestly ace. And look, due to the length of this section, I couldn't possibly get into it all, but honestly, if you haven't played this game before, first of all, fair play on not giving a bollocks about spoilers, but secondly, you need to go play it right now, even if it's just to experience this section alone. It's 100% worth it. Alright, with all that glazing out the way, I'll go ahead and highlight our key moments. Our first figurine is found in room 201 after solving the mirror puzzle inside the adjacent room. The second comes from the conference room on the 3rd floor, which we gain access to following on from a number of previous tasks, all joined together and leading us here. The final one sees us enter a unique area where we actually forfeit all of our guns, key items, collectibles, you name it, we need to get rid of it all. From here, we head down the lift and encounter multiple more enemies resembling that of the lip, sorry. These things are pretty much just hanging off the walls patrolling, and we need to maneuver around them, which is admittedly a unique change of pace this late in the game, but it's brief enough to be presented well. Down here also is a stack of bread you can interact with for one of the easiest trophies you'll ever grab. The area in whole does have its own mini puzzle, which ultimately leads you through into a bar, and in front of the exploding jukebox lies our final figurine. With these now all in hand, we can head back to the lobby and wrap up our final puzzle. Just right after heading back to the locker and grabbing all our firearms. I mean, we can't be facing the music without an instrument, can we now? Straps acquired once more, we wrap up the parcel and out pops the floor key for the rest of the 3rd floor. This is relevant as it gives us room access to 312, the place James and Mary stayed during their vacation to Silent Hill. Heading up and in not only grants us a trophy, but gives us an opportunity to watch the videotape we collected in the hotel. I hope it's Rush Hour 2, please be Rush Hour 2. Oof, never mind. And look, all jokes aside, this scene is honestly so good. Throughout the whole game, I was pretty confident Mary was never going to be found, but I wasn't expecting the outcome of James having done it himself. For anyone confused or needing clarity, this whole endeavour we've been on through the town of Silent Hill, hospital, Labyrinth, hotel, all of it has just been a manifestation of James with his own guilt. Mary is already dead, strangled by James, and not killed by the diseases he claimed stood by the car at the beginning. Pyramid Head, the nurses, and every other creature we've killed so far have all just been conjured up in James's own psyche. This guilt then of course manifesting as monsters right in front of us. Much like Eddie and Angela, this whole game we've been stuck inside our own worst nightmare, suffocating with guilt for the suffocation we did ourselves to Mary. With this realisation also comes a harsh pivot right back into the other world, where we need to press on and wrap this all up. Now, as mentioned, this run has been guided for collectibles, and as you can imagine, we are near the finish line now, so we go ahead and grab our last glimpse of the past for Echoes, and final memo for Archivist. With them out the way now though, it's time to deal with James's ultimate manifestation of guilt, that of course being Pyramid Head. Only this time, there's a couple of them. Now you may be asking why there's 2 of them now. From my own perspective, it's due to us killing Eddie earlier, who of course was an actual human and not a manifestation of guilt. This of course then joined the first Pyramid Head for killing Mary, making up the gruesome twosome. Again though, like so much stuff in this game, it's left to interpretation. Another popular theory is that one suggests Mary and the other Maria, as we killed one and couldn't save the other. Who knows? Either way though, one thing is for certain, we're gonna outbatter the both of them. And this is hands down the best boss in the game for me. Now don't get us wrong, the attack patterns are slow and easy to dodge, but just the sheer fact of how iconic Pyramid Head is, combined with the scale of the moment, comes together and make it all feel very significant. They do also pack a punch if they can land on you, so it's not exactly a walk in the park either. Shoot them enough times though, and they're bound to fall, grant us obsolete. And I mean, the way they're off themselves in unison.
I gotta tell you, it was perfect. Perfect.
With the duo down, we are granted a couple eggs we need to use on the door in front of us. I'll get into these shortly, but for now we've only got one goal: to make quick work of this hallway and come face to face with what we've been chasing this whole time. Right after grabbing one more collectible for pieces unarranged. Look, that's all them done now. Let's actually head up there and get this done. As expected, Mary is waiting for us, and the James who came in this town would relish in this moment. But knowing what we've done, it isn't possible to continue this masquerade. James finally takes responsibility, leaving us to fight whatever the fuck this is. And look, even with it being the final boss, I don't have much to comment on this. It's not far off being a rehash of the Flesh Lip, only this time the creature's a lot more mobile with a few tricks up its locker. The boss itself is not of massive significance. What is, however, is the events following it. Taking it down, we can grab that part of me, and of course our first ending. For this first run, we ended up getting the leave ending. In this we see James finally accepting Mary's death and putting an end to all of the guilt and illusions. Simple in principle, but the writing and performances are so good it ends it all flawlessly.
But that's not why I did it. The truth is, I hated you. I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
If that's true, then why do you look so sad?
We reunite with Laura, and from there we actually escape Silent Hill. Or more specifically, escape our own reality of hell, learning instead to accept what we've done and try to move on. With the story now done and a quick tactical save made, we can quickly clean a few things up before New Game Plus. On that run, we were able to clear the game in 10 hours and 5 minutes, leaving us only a few minutes short of the speedrun time required for Faster Than Fog. This was an extremely quick fix, as I just went back, dropped the difficulty, and cleared the last boss as quickly as possible. This time around, skipping the cutscene and grabbing the trophy alongside a 9 hour and 56 minute clear time. So I was happy to get that out of the way, removing any pressure from the second run. This leaves us with two possible endings we could still possibly get. The first I'll cover is Only Way Out, as this one is substantially easier to manipulate than the other. To start, I went ahead and observed Maria's knife a good 3 or 4 times as soon as I spawned in. From there, I continued as usual until a double pyramid head fight, in which before entering, I inspected it another 3 times. During the fight, I made sure to take as much damage as possible without healing, and after defeating them, I grabbed the eggs, making sure to place and go through the door of the rust-coloured egg, not the scarlet egg. After this, I made sure to listen to the full Mary conversation in the hallway before approaching and fighting her again without healing. After this, I just prayed it was enough. And thankfully, after taking her down, we were treated to something different. This ending is a lot simpler, in which James is swallowed by the guilt and due to the decisions drives his car right into the water, therefore of course drowning himself. Honestly, probably is the bleakest of the bunch, but unnecessary evil in our chase for the plot.
James, you made me happy.
The final one we could get in this run is Maria, but this one ended up being a tougher nut to crack, and don't get me wrong, crack I did try without any success, which is weird because I was actually conscious of this throughout the playthrough, mainly as the guide had a few moments where it signified opportunities to get points towards this ending. A couple examples would be all the visits inside the hospital where Maria was resting. Another is placing the ripe apple instead of the rotten inside the hotel at the mirror puzzle. Small things like staying healed and interacting with Maria also help if I'm not mistaken, which I would make sure to do, but for whatever reason, I couldn't get it to pop. We of course picked the scarlet egg for the doorway and didn't listen to the full conversation, but in the end, I just had to accept I hadn't done enough and go for it in the second run, which thankfully won't be an issue as it can be chased adjacent to the other 3 endings. I'll save my thoughts on the game as a whole until after our second run, but without further ado, let's get into it and I'll tell you what we need to do to wrap this up. Now, just before fully getting into the second run, I'm going to go ahead and explain the first 2 trophies, as one is right at the start and another is simply missed from the first run and not directly related to New Game Plus. First up is Lumberjack, which like a few other trophies in this game is extremely simple. You see at the start before entering the town there is a chainsaw on the side we can grab for the trophy. The best part is this weapon isn't just a gimmick, it's actually arguably more powerful than any of the guns, which is obviously a massive help for one of the requirements of this next run. The second came a bit later in the form of Merciless. This is for simply finishing off 50 enemies with stomps. And look, I'd rather use my hands personally, but I'm sure foot trap will do. Okay, with them done, I'll walk you through the requirements of this run. First and foremost, the whole run we won't be killing a single enemy with a gun, which is, as mentioned, where the chainsaw is a massive help. Alongside this, as soon as we collect the radio this time around, we won't be using it at all, so we make sure that's turned off and remains off until the end of the game. Aside from these 2, it's just going to be a case of working towards the remaining endings. Arguably the most important of them is Maria, as again it's not so easily influenced, so we'll make sure to be shit hot on that. The others however are very easy to trigger and only require a few things. Now I won't go into all the details as there's an aptitude of great guides online for them, but each of the 3 New Game Plus endings just require a few items to be collected and used in a few specific areas. But aside from that, it's just another playthrough of a fantastic game, so I had no complaints going in. I won't bore you with all the details again, but you know how this goes now. We headed into town, through the apartments, ended up in the hospital. We then found ourselves in prison for a bit, before getting lost in a labyrinth, and finally we found ourselves back at the hotel. Using a point here to make a tactical save right after finishing the puzzle, giving us the key for the 3rd floor, we can go ahead and finish up all the endings without being locked out of any. Of course, this would be the case if I wasn't a complete and utter fucking spanner who picked up the only item for the Rebirth ending which fully locks you into that one no matter what you do. Only of course realising this after I'd completed 95% of the hotel bit. Now thankfully I did have a save right from the start of the hotel when we first entered reception. This would just mean I would need to replay the whole hotel section again, but as I say, it's that strong, I would have played it another 4 to 5 times and still been okay with it. With that in mind, of course, first up for us would be Rebirth. Nothing special is needed here, just the 4 items we had acquired prior, and we are guaranteed to get it. What wasn't a guarantee, however, was the trophy for no radio and melee weapons only, so I was praying they'd pop. Now, for a brief synopsis on the Rebirth ending is that James has gathered the items, at least he believes anyway, to resurrect Mary, so the game simply ends with James and Mary's carcass rowing across the lake towards his occult ritual spot. Almost there now folks, and next up was that Maria ending I've been chasing the whole 2 runs. Once again, back to the start of the hotel, making sure to pick up the ripe apple for display and also using the scarlet egg alongside not listening to the full conversation in the hallway. Now, one prerequisite for this ending is that when you reach the top of the stairs, Mary must be laying in bed. So when I climbed them ladders, as you can imagine, and she was perched up on that bed frame, I was damn near ready to bust a nut.
Lord have mercy, I'm about to bust.
Of course, though, being the professional I am, I was able to compose myself and just go ahead murdering Mary's manifestation once more. Now, this ending is arguably bleaker than even the in-water one for me, as even though initially it just looks like Marie and James will escape Silent Hill, before getting in the car, Maria coughs.
Better do something about that cough.
Signifying the cycle will just repeat again. To end this on a high though, we've got a couple much less bleak endings to finish on. First up is the infamous dog one. It literally just requires us to make a dog and bone key, which can be used in a room before entering the tape in James and Maria's room. Here, our canine friend is working behind the scenes, orchestrating it all. James hits him with a bit Japanese. We grab our trophy and everyone goes home happy. The final thing needed to wrap things up is the UFO ending, and as I'm a massive follower of the UAP topic in real life, I had to leave this one as the one which pops the platinum. For this in the town itself, we were able to grab a blue gem and use it in a few specific places. The final of which being in the room just before James would normally watch the tape. And from there, I mean it's in the name, I'll let you be the judge of what happens. I'll tell you one thing though, that OG James design on that screen is 1,000,000 times more terrifying than anything we've seen so far. Thank Christ James didn't have a mirror to 2001, because if that thing was manifesting and starting us down, I don't think this plat would be done. And there we have it, all 6 endings done and both playthroughs complete. Now whether you chase platinums or not, I genuinely couldn't recommend this game enough. Bloober Team absolutely smashed it out the park, so full credit to them. Now if you're still here at this point, firstly thank you, and secondly make sure you drop a like and subscribe. We've got plenty more coming down the pipeline. Bloober have just released Cronus and New Dawn as well, so if you want to see that one next, let us know in the comments below. I'll not keep this any longer though, since I'm aware this video is already long enough, but with all that said, I'll see you in the next one.